Tonight, what we are going to do is we're going to take the ugly phrase politically correct. We've all heard about this. We've all heard people claim that, oh, everybody's just politically correct, and I'm so tired of just being politically correct. And it's almost given an excuse for an entire nation to be bullies. So today we're going to take politically correct and we're going to redefine it as politically correct is respect. So first, let me give you a little bit insight onto the idea of anger. Because when you look at something of politically correctness and the response of people who are in a situation where somebody is able to be a bully at the expense of somebody else, anger is generally going to be the result by that person. And we can look at anger. There's a common idea in psychology that anger is the result of a person's value. So you have a person here, value, and a person here, value. So we'll say A value and B value. And anger ends up happening is when A value has somehow in the course of the interaction or in the course of the engagement, whether it's communication or a visual clue or something, ends up decreasing the value of this person. So instead of being on even planes, B value is now down here. So anger, the common idea of psychology says that anger is the result of this person whose value has been decreased trying to use visual cues such as angry words, gestures, volume, everything that would be considered heavy or intense to try to restore the value that was lost so that they're back up here again. What ends up happening, unfortunately, is that when this anger elements are applied, angry words, gestures, and volume, and other words, usually negative words towards the person, all of these things end up decreasing this person's value. And of course, they're going to apply the same anger elements to try to restore their value. And this is going to continue because each person is trying to continue to restore their value by using negativeness, angry words, gestures, volume, negative words, very heavy elements of anger to try to restore value. And destruction, negativeness always ends up in destruction. Negative creates destruction. So eventually, this whole pattern so we've got this going on, and we have anger elements. Because even though they're trying to restore their balance, A and B, the situation in itself is escalating. So things are getting heavier and heavier and heavier and more and more and more, till eventually you're going to end up with violence or destruction. So what created all of this? What created this whole pattern of anger, this escalation of anger that eventually ends up in violence and destruction? Well, it has to do with value. And like I said, the common idea of psychology is that anger is the result of somebody's value that has been decreased. I don't think I have anything to wipe this off, so I'm going to use my hands. I'm an artist, I get dirty, I don't care. And so you understand this pattern. Do you see it? We have A value, B value. At first, they were on even planes. Everybody saw each other the same way. And whatever happened, somebody said something that made the other person feel less respected. Well, I gave the answer away, but less valued than the other person. So when that happens, anger elements end up getting applied in order to try to restore value. And when those anger elements get applied, it ends up decreasing the other person's value. They're going to apply the anger elements, and it's going to create a situation that's going to escalate until violence and destruction is the eventual result. So, where did the anger come from? Where did the loss of value come from? So, we can say anger equals loss of value. You guys see that? We have to define what is value, okay? So we understood that anger, we saw the whole escalation of anger, the elements of anger gets applied when value is lost. But what is value? Well, value is weight, which makes sense. A decrease of value, increase of value. It's a weight scale, right? It's a balance scale. So value is weight of something. Well, what is it a weight of? A weight of importance. Of who or what? A person, an idea, a noun. So value is a weight of importance we place on a noun. A noun's a person, place, thing, or idea. Okay? Value, weight, noun. So, and those can be either a person or an idea. And a lot of the times the idea is associated with the person. Okay, so anger equals the loss of since value is weight of importance, we can substitute the word value with the word weight of importance. So loss of weight of importance to a noun. Noun being a person or an idea. An idea of that person. Okay? Now we go back to this and we say, oh, well, anger was a loss of value. So what can we say now? Since all these things being equal, and I can't remember the exact term, I think that's the reflective property of math, all things being equal, they are equal to the same thing. So since anger is a loss of value, and value is a weight of importance, and value is a loss of the weight of importance to a noun, person, place, thing, or idea, we can say anger equals loss of value, which equals loss of weight of importance. Okay, so that's a formula. Anger equals loss of value, which equals loss of weight of importance. And we can take out that and say anger equals loss of weight of importance of a person. Which makes total sense when we talk about the anger and what ends up creating it. So, now we apply a new word. Politically correct. So now we have to define what politically correct means and why it is a term that's out there and almost being an excuse for being bullied. So our hypothesis is politically correct Lack. We'll say lack of politically correct equals bully. Okay. So lack of politically correct. So if we say politically correct, if we look at that and we say, okay, well, politically correct is actually being, and we can take the root word of it here, polite. And correct, if this is polite, what could we make for another word for correct? Well, if something's correct, it's right, but we don't want to get into right or left or, right tends to be associated with this right and this left, this right, this wrong. So if we were to say something is correct, could we say that it's balanced? Because if something is correct, let's see. And this is why I need a mathematician who can actually take the mathematical part of this and see the whole numbers and the theories and the formulas there. But correctness, when something is correct, we could say that it is something that is running smoothly. And for something to be running smoothly, for a car to be running smoothly, everything has to be operational at its prime function. So maybe we could say correct is polite, let's see, function or efficiency. There we go. So we could call it maybe polite efficiency. And efficiency is too, fancy of a word. We could find something a lot less business speak. And we could say polite, that's something I'll have to think about. But let's just leave it at that, because I tend to think a lot more business speak, because that's the world I've worked in a lot, in the commerce world. So polite efficiency. And we could say here, lack of polite efficiency equals bully. Well, that makes sense, because a bully does not have any politeness in him or her. So a lack of polite efficiency equals bully, from a logic point of view, makes sense. Okay, so politically correct, if we say politically correct is polite efficiency, and if we no longer like politically correctness, now we're applying a lack of politically correct or a lack of polite efficiency, we are going to create a bully environment. Now, what does a bully do? Well, a bully says or does things that decreases a person's value. So we have bully equals decrease a person's value. Okay, are you sticking with me now? Going back to our original formula. So decrease a person value, which is the same thing as loss of value. So let me just keep, for comparison purposes, so we can really see the formula play out. Loss of a person's value. Okay, so here we are back up here. So bully equals loss of person value, which loss of person value is going to equal anger as a result. Okay, so bully is loss of person. So what a bully does, the interaction that happens between a bully and a person creates a loss of person's value or loss of value for that person. Or we could also substitute importance. For of person, which equals anger. So bullying is going to result in anger of the other person, guaranteed. And we see that all the time. We say nobody likes a bully because they make the other person feel less than. Okay, so going back to our formula, we can now say anger, which is the result of a loss of value or weight of importance. You see, that's the same thing as we showed, or as I showed you. Equals bully, because I can write it, if it's true this way, it means it's going to be true that way too. And we said bully is a lack of polite efficiency. Lack of polite efficiency. I need a bigger board. Efficiency. And the lack of polite efficiency So lack of polite efficiency is the same thing as lack of politically correct. So what does that mean? That means if nobody wants to be politically correct anymore, we should expect to see anger that will eventually escalate into violence. And that's something that we want to avoid. Now, if we look at AI, since we're transitioning into a new age of AI, Internet of Things, and robotics, what we're doing right now, or what's happening right now on the science end of it and the tech end, is that these AI machines that are being created are using our cyberspace in order to learn from it. So if we get rid of the idea of being politically correct, well, now we're going to be training these machines to no longer believe in politically correctness. And if they're pulling everything from us, and if the people are no longer being politically correct, the lack of polite efficiency, okay, and you see why you don't want a machine to be a lack of polite efficiency. You don't want them to just operate on the absolute. That could be really dangerous for a human who encounters a machine that has no capacity of compassion and will not be learning it. Is only going to be looking at pretty much out for itself. A machine that looks out for itself is dangerous to human society, because as that machine is going to be learning and self-learning, if you guys have ever seen like all the cyber movies that's out there and all the novels that's out there, you would see why this is a really dangerous idea. And it's almost like, hey guys, did you read the cyber law novels? Did you read these novels of these scientists who are not scientists, but fictional authors who imagined this world that we're going to be in soon, with these warnings that are of humanity saying, you need to make sure that you have your humanity still in place before you start playing with these very dangerous things of absoluteness on a machine that is not capable of compassion. So this is our formula. Lack of polite efficiency or no longer believing in politically correct is going to create bullies out of the people. And those bullies are going to make anger out of those who they encounter. So if we're all bullies and we start bullying each other around and we start creating and making each other angry, we are no longer going to be communicating with each other, and everybody is just going to try to win. And I think that's what's happening right now. If you look at a lot of our cyberspace and a lot of the social media, you don't have people engaging anymore. You have people trying to win at all costs, and that's usually putting somebody down. There is a ton of critics, and you might be a critic too. You might be somebody who is just critical because you want to win. And it's only because this is the whole entire environment that is now being programmed in our society. which is why an artist has a huge responsibility. I wonder if there's a other side to this. Give me a second. Uh-oh. I'm a really small room, like super tiny. Like here's the wall. And there's a second side to it, but I don't think I can get to it. Nope. Nope. I'm off like that much. Just that much. Isn't that crazy? Like that much is all it takes to not be able to get something through. Yep. Okay. And there's no room for this to go. That's completely against the wall. All right. So we've got all this. I'm going to take a picture so I can post this later, and I'm going to reverse the picture somehow because the picture thing on my phone. Oh, wait, maybe it does. Oh, okay, good. It kept the image just like it is. Good. But for whatever reason, it doesn't do that when I wear shirts. Oh, because I flip it. Never mind. So this is our formula for why this idea of politically correct is not a good idea, of getting rid of politically correctness, because we are creating a formula that is eventually going to end up with bullying and with anger. And anger, as we saw, escalates. Anger eventually escalates to violence. And when you add in the component where people are being told that, you know, carrying around your gun and defending your liberty is a great thing. So we have an anger situation. You've got people armed. And then in an intense environment, people are not always functioning rationally, and they're functioning off of their emotion. And all it takes is with that gun is a split-second decision made on an emotion where rational is left out. So the emotion overtakes the rationality, and split-second trigger, and that's it. So this is why it's so important for the artist to get involved, because we have the tools through our art to be able to take all of this idea and show why we need to start caring about people again. We need to show to our world, really, not just our nation, but to our entire world, that politically correct is respect. And why politically correctness, or as I've redefined it as polite efficiency, is so necessary. It is necessary to prevent war, because escalation of violence and destruction eventually gets to a point where war is the answer. And we want to prevent war. War is destruction. Nobody wins in war. Everybody is like, well, there's always a winner. And we can look at the 1940s of the last World War II, and the reason the Americans won is because we were the last to enter, one, and it was not on our own soil. Two, if it was if you look at the places where war actually happened, it devastated economies. It devastated in fact, in France, I believe World War I took out an entire generation, whole generation wiped out. And we can look at the places where war actually happened, and we see a huge economic collapse that they're still trying to recover from. War is not the answer. And only someone who thinks to win, only someone who puts themselves above everybody else and does not care about anyone else, the bully, only the bully wants to go to war, because war is destruction. And for the bully, they don't care about anything else. They only want what's theirs. They want to win. They want to be at the top. So unless you're a bully, you don't want to go to war. And if you are a bully, you don't want to go to war because war is destruction. Nobody wins. And we shouldn't try to encourage the idea of taking human lives. I mean, that just sucks. I don't care what country you're in. You don't look at somebody and say it's justified. It's not. Taking a human life is never justified. So, and for all those people who are preaching about abortion and then they're preaching about going to war, hey guys, you're a hypocrite. Okay, so that's our goal. So since I don't have any artists here, I don't really have a lot with art to be able to show you how we can do it. But if you take your artwork and you create the respect that needs to be seen, if you show why politically correct is a good idea, that politically correct is respect, that when we are politically correct or polite efficiency, what does that mean? We're respecting other people's family traditions. We are respecting other people's cultures and heritages. We are respecting other people's beliefs. And pretty much we're just letting people live their own lives. And that's what I'd like us to get back to. So that's why I created the artist think tank Artist Fights Back, because the artists have the tools of communication and relationship and able to pull up our nation by its heartstraps. Just as 1930s, when FDR called on the artists to pull the nation up by its bootstraps and created the nonprofit system, we are now being called to pull up our nation by its heartstraps so that we do not end up in a war situation where everybody loses. That's our job. And that's what the whole purpose of Think Tank Artist Fights Back. I'm going to be doing this every single week. I will invite the local artists to come join me. I get it. You have been burned. This is not anything that you've ever done before. I am an artist. You're an artist. I have the art of being able to take situations, break it down to its smallest form, and give you a formula on why it is so. I can then take that and turn it into a phrasing. I'm a wordsmith, a master of words, and is able to take words, just a few phrases, and really make a point. And when I have the strength of your art, the power of your art combined with the power of my words, we are going to change not only the nation, but the entire world.